garlic butter Hasselback potatoes. They're gonna be on the menu this Thanksgiving, not just for me, but I think you too. I'm gonna take you through the whole steps so you can see how to make this beautiful presentation, but it tastes amazing, so you can mimic this exact thing on your Thanksgiving table. Let's go. Thanksgiving is one of the time that we have the most food traditions, and I'm not gonna say you have to change up what you have. Usually we have those set meals every year, but there are things I like to vary in, vary out, change up a little bit, and these garlic butter Hasselback potatoes are one of my favorite ways because they're simple. They can be assembled a little bit ahead, baked partially, and then finished off maybe while the turkey's cooling off, whatever it is. So what I have here are some of my potatoes, and I wanna finish with my last one. Now what we're doing is we're fanning them. This is what a Hasselback potato is. See how I have them all cut and they open up? That's what we need to do. Now, some people like to do it where you take 2 skewers and you take your potato. You can use a Yukon Gold, you can use a russet, whatever you enjoy, and you put it between those skewers and then use those as your guide of how far down to cut, because you don't want to cut all the way through. Now that can work. The problem is sometimes potatoes aren't flat. So some people will cut off a portion just to make them flat. I don't like to do that because it's kind of a waste. So I don't know if I'll really use the skewers. You know, I've made this recipe quite a few times. I've made Hasselback potatoes quite a few times. After a while, you get a little bit of a rhythm and you kind of just know. Now, does that mean I never mess up with this? No, but I will not tell anyone if I do, and we'll just jam that potato against the side of the pan if you almost cut all the way through, and it will hold it together maybe. But what I'm doing here is just cutting down, and I'm using a smaller knife because I feel like I have a little bit more control and can feel where it's going. But we're just going through and making all those cuts. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? I think this is such a fun thing because they're kind of a fun presentation. Then each person could either, you could cut them in pieces if you don't want to have a whole potato. At Thanksgiving, we have lots of food, or you can single serve them. So what we do at this point is we take olive oil. So we need to pretty much roast them and bake them so they can be partially cooked. Now, as I'm putting that olive oil on, sometimes I will try to open them up just slightly at some of the pieces to get it down in. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna roast them at a nice temperature, and that's gonna allow the potatoes to really almost cook through. And then at that point, we're gonna make a delicious butter that is enriched with garlic and herbs. And we're gonna add cheese, and we're gonna really finish these off in what I like to think of as a real Thanksgiving flair. Because that's the thing at Thanksgiving. We go over the top, we enjoy all the things we don't do every day, we do that day. So I'm gonna take some salt, make sure to season these up, because if you can season it every step of the way, they're gonna always end up better in the end. So I'm putting that all over. I'm gonna take some black pepper and do the same. And this is the only step you need to know at this point, is to season them, olive oil, and now roast them, and then we come back and we finish it up with that butter. So I'm gonna put these right in, we're gonna let them roast, then we'll finish up. The potatoes are just about done, so I'm gonna finish up by getting the butter ready. This is the garlic butter, it's gonna be herbed. So I have my butter right here in a small little baking dish. It's not a baking dish, it's a saucepan for the stove. Anything that can melt it. And then what I'm gonna add is some fresh sage that I've minced up. We're using the flavors of Thanksgiving. So we have some fresh sage, I have some thyme leaves that I kind of chopped up small. If it's tender stems of thyme, like the ends of them, you can chop them up. If it's the more, woody stems, you definitely wanna remove that from the leaves and then just do the leaves. So then I wanna take a couple cloves of garlic, and I'm just gonna actually press them through. You can mince them really fine. You can put them through a garlic press. I sometimes like the garlic press in this case because it really, see how it just gets off that essence, all that pulp and beauty of the garlic, and then you're just left with this husk in here. So you can do that with both cloves, which makes it so much, to me, easier, and it's like less cleanup, which I really like. But you can mince it too. I just like how this really gets that flavor all pushed in there with their juices, which we want strong flavors. Potatoes can take that really strong astringent flavor. So I'm gonna put all that right in there, make sure I get all the garlic. Then I'm gonna put this on the stove over low heat, let it melt in the last few minutes the potatoes have before we finish them with some cheese. We're gonna do some grated cheese also. It's all gonna come together. The potatoes have roasted. The butter is melted. So the potatoes aren't quite done yet. We're gonna finish them now with their final roast, but what we're gonna do is add so much flavor now. But do you see how beautiful they are? They start opening up. They start getting slightly crisped on the top. I love this process. It's so easy and it's just kind of fun. So to put these together, I do a few different things. So I'm gonna start by putting some of that garlic butter on, which you can see that beautiful garlic pulp is in there. And see, since they open up in the oven, it's so much easier to start pouring this on and over, and it works down into all of those crevices, all those openings. And you really wanna take time to do that. You wanna make sure you can actually get this over top of them. So I'm gonna do a few for you. And then I have some pieces of cheese. I like to use a nice sharp cheddar, maybe even an aged cheddar, because it has so much flavor. You don't put it in every single one, but what I do is just every so often, take a little piece like this, and I just kind of put it in there. And then what it's gonna do when we go back in, it's gonna melt. So this will just melt into them and get like kind of nice and crusty on the bottom. And then you can even, if you want to, like this is Thanksgiving, so if you want to fancy it up, you can take some whole sage leaves. You can put a whole leaf kind of down in some of the cracks. I just think it's another way, any way to me to dress it up and add something special, and it gets kind of crispy and roasted. Like, have you ever had a sage leaf that is fried? It almost does that in the oven, and it just adds that aroma. So you can take the time to do any of that. And then at the very end, I'll even take some of our shredded parm. Obviously, you can just put it over the top. What I also like to do, if you have time, is just to open up some as you're doing it so it can get down into them. You know, it's all those little things that are gonna add even more flavor, more color. So I'm gonna finish up doing these, and we'll kind of talk about the final steps and how wonderful they're gonna be. I'm finishing up with the final Parmesan cheese. I like how it sits on top. It looks like a lot, but it does melt into it, but it also gets nice and brown and crusty on top, which adds a really good flavor component. So all these now are ready to go in. You know, they take a couple steps, but they have such a nice presentation and they're so delicious and they're really kind of rich. Butter, hello. But that's what we do around Thanksgiving. We enjoy those things. We enjoy them once in a while. We work hard all the other time so we can enjoy them without thinking about it. So these are now ready to go back into the oven. They're gonna get finished roasting, tender, get beautiful, crusty, melted cheese. I'm ready. Are you? The potatoes come out of the oven. You can see they get nice and crisped on top. That cheese gets crispy. You know what one of my favorite parts is underneath the potato, some of that Parmesan or like some of the cheddar that falls off. It really becomes like a frico. So it has this like crisped, like look at this, and it just like, it's crispy. That's heaven. That's good. That is the chef's snack, and you deserve that. So at this point, you can serve them whole. You can cut them in half too if you want. What's great is they're just tender, beautiful morsels at this point. You can see how beautifully tender but crispy on the edges they are. This reminds me of growing up. My mom used to make a Hasselback potato. What I love is the inside of them is like creamy, almost like a mashed potato creamy, and the outside has that nice crispness. You get that beautiful hit of garlic butter, which I love because it really takes on the flavor, but then it imparts it on the potato, but also you still taste the potato, which is what you want. And you get those moments of that crispy Parmesan. It's one of my favorites. It's a great way to kind of change the game maybe at Thanksgiving. Maybe instead of mashed, you wanna make these. Maybe instead of sweet potatoes, you wanna make these, or just add them to the normal. That's what I often do, is just add a whole nother thing. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you share this so other people can see how easy it is, how you can make Thanksgiving, and this is great. You can make it any portion size, 2, 3, 1, whatever you want. And so share it so other people can see that. Check my website, wiseguy.com, for this recipe, all my other recipes, they're all on there. Thanksgiving Central is ready, and it's ready for you.